the entire Kurdish and entire event that occurred in Kurdistan. They deliberate. It's deliberate, it's political. They distance themselves to the Kurdish issue and genocide, the crime that is going on. While this is interesting, while the entire media deliberately focusing on many commentators in the Middle East stressing the importance of resolving Arab-Israel dispute for the achieving the peace Middle East, that often overlook the Kurdish issue that constitute more important fulcrum for changing in the region. For example, we see many events that interest media, that also media would work for their interest, news to get an economical benefit, whatever reason it is, of course, things. But imagine in Rojava, Kurdistan, you could see in the Facebook many documentation how the people being hanged in the public spaces in the middle of the chair. They put a chair without court, things quite horrific. I mean, it's beyond the civilization. Every day, under any circumstance, the Kurdish youth being hanged. There is no mention in the media at all. So we see total we have been not just a victim of media embargo, but also we are, what I said before, the photograph of Jizre and things is quite horrific. Is the cities, the destruction is northern Kurdistan. But let's talk about embargo and civil liberty. My apology, I'm using the word, we are very magnificent lawyers and barristers among us. My apology, I'm using maybe the wrong word, but I have defined it myself this. Embargo in civil liberty, how I define embargo in civil liberty. As you know, Armenian and Jewish in diaspora have a major political and economical place for their country. Believe it or not. Israel and Armenia wouldn't stand in their feet with their Lovinism and their power, that diaspora Armenian. And I salute them for their great work. However, the Kurds are restricted on their right economically and politically. As during this is interesting, during 90, Prime Minister of the time, Tansu Çiller, list of over 200 Kurdish businessmen. They was given green light to deep state to execute them. Tens or hundreds of them being Kurdish businessmen were kidnapped in daily life, tortured, chopped, and threw off them in the trenches and bushes. Now, when we talk about embargo of civil liberty, there are other factors. For example, in the 1980s, two Kurdish leaders in Australia, one of Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iran, two leaders was assassinated, one in Germany, one in Australia, if I'm correct. There was no proper judicial process. At the end, the people who killed them safely been transported to Iran. Even more tragic, in the last assassination, 3 magnificent Kurdish women, among them Sakina Johnson. As you know, the mother of today well-known YPJ, the pioneer of Kurdish women revolution, was gunned down in Paris by Turkish intelligence. Yet, entire process was flawed due to shadow to pressure from Turks. But what most tragic for the Kurds and Kurdish friends and activists is the kidnapping of Mr. Öcalan. Kidnapping of Mr. Öcalan was organized with collaboration and several states. Such a horrific crime in our international community in mafia style, where few countries taking advantage of Kurds as a stateless. They unlawfully and illegally kidnapped Mr. Öcalan. This form of terrorism against Kurdish nation is a breach of international law, that's what I believe. Yet Kurds have not been able to contest that unlawful arrest crime the way Öcalan been kidnapped and arrested. I'm hoping that future will happen. To summarize here, ladies and gentlemen, Kurdish mission and struggle has also been very rough and tragic. The fact is we are in the war for survival. Our people in Kurdistan face a totalitarian exclusion, Mexico, proxy wars, battleground, and unfortunately rising risk of genocide. All these traits, including rise of jihadism and fascism in the Middle East, which in fact promise uncertain future for all of us. However, to be optimistic, in this harsh reality, and despite all odds, Kurds are determined to unite their effort and follow the shared objective with all other people in the region for establishing secular democratic society where women are the core part of society. 27 rebellion in Turkey has, just in northern Kurdistan, had taught us a lot. There have been 100 rebellion in all over Kurdistan. To have something on our own this time, to have how we can build a society in such a fragile region, which poisoned by nationalism and religion extremists, how you can build a society based on coexistence, cooperation, tolerance, acceptance, and respect, and protect the environment, nature. More important, see women as fundamental instrument of the society with their own thought and idea. This is very important in all revolution, all feminism. Woman has never had his own ideas and thought. Mr. Öcalan's vision and philosophical view having given hope not just to the Kurds, but to the entire people worldwide. With Mr. Öcalan's vision, true feminism, self-awareness, self-thought has born in Kurdistan, particularly in Middle East, where women has been brutally suppressed and caged. Kurdish women have taken lead in revolutionary all front. More importantly, he's the fact Mr. Öcalan is the key to stopping bloodshed in Middle East. His thought has in his teaching have inspired millions. According to National Intelligence Representative Graham Fuller, he had a lot of assessment on the Kurds, and he highlighted a very interesting point. He's saying that the repression of violence will never solve the Kurdish problem, and ultimately will only hasten and escalate Kurdish demand for maximum independence. He quote, "If Turkey can satisfy its own Kurds, aspiration will become a Kurdish economy and cultural life for whole Middle East. Indeed, an enlightened Turkish policy toward its own Kurds will create magnet force in northern Kurdistan by creating a model of Kurdish governance and life that will attract the discontent Kurds in Iraq, Iran, Syria, Turkey, that would become international Kurdish capital with far more offer than Iraq, Iran, or Syria ever could." This is highly intelligent person done assessment. The reality is the Turkish people suffer more than Kurds. And there are huge interests of Turkish community and Turkish government to solve the Kurdish problem peacefully. The Kurdish achievement in Rojava, as John mentioned, is unique, is the best alternative to solving problem through democratic confederalism that promote shared value with environment defense, self-defense, gender equality, and pluralistic tolerance for religion, politics, and culture. Furthermore, it is evidence that democratization and liberalization of this state, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, Syria, cannot happen without accepting the Kurds' fundamental right. Therefore, as I concluded my speech here, Kurds are actually key to democratization of Middle East. Thank you.